Today I wanted to make some cinnamon rolls, so let's make some together. I started by measuring out my milk and microwaving it until warm. Then I added it to a bowl along with some yeast and some sugar, mixed it up, and set a timer for 5 minutes to let it bloom. I then pulled out my mixing bowl and started adding my flour into it, along with some salt and some sugar. Now I added it into my stand mixer along with my whisk attachment and let it mix as I started on the next part of the recipe. I started cracking in some eggs, but during the second crack I lost a little bit of shell, so I had to fish it out, but we got it, so no worries. Then I started mixing it together and then added some vanilla and butter and then gave that another mix. Once it was done, I added in my yeast mixture and attached my dough hook and let that combine until a nice dough was formed. Once it was fully combined, I removed it from the mixer and started flouring my surface to put the dough down onto. I then started coating it in flour to form into a nice taut ball so I could add it to my lightly greased bowl to let it rise for 60 to 90 minutes. Then I started on my caramel sauce that's going to go underneath my cinnamon rolls, so I added into a bowl some butter, some brown sugar, cinnamon, and some honey, and I made sure to scrape out all the honey so that I didn't waste any of it. Then on top of that, I added in my vanilla extract, some heavy whipping cream, some salt, and gave that a good mix until fully combined. I sprayed down a baking sheet and started adding in my mixture to the bottom of the pan. I spread it out until I thought it was good, and then I set it aside to start on the filling for the cinnamon rolls. And once again, I'm starting with some brown sugar, butter, some cinnamon, and a little bit of salt, and just mixing that until combined. At this point, the dough is completely risen, and so I floured my surface and started moving it around to create a bit of a square type shape to define the corners for when I fully roll it out. Then I get to rolling it out with my rolling pin, and as I'm rolling it, I like to take measurements to see how long it's supposed to be. And once it's to my liking, I started adding the filling in and spreading it out until it's fully covered. Then comes the rolling process, and it took a little bit of help from a bench scraper that I had to get it fully rolled up, but we got it nonetheless. Then I just got a piece of thread and started cutting them into 12 equal pieces, and I started adding them into my pan, and they fit perfectly. Then I topped them with some heavy whipping cream to give them more moisture while they cook, and I covered them with some saran wrap to let them rise again. Once they came out of the oven, I topped them with the frosting, and they were so delicious. Thank you so much for baking with me.